There we go.
Cool. And then I'm just going to clap because then I'll sync it. Cool. Okay, so if you could start off by please introducing yourself with your name and your pronoun.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Harding, and she, her.
Awesome. Where are you from and where do you live now?
Well, I am from Central Ohio. I was born in Columbus, Ohio, and lived in a suburb called Worthington. And then I was gone for 20 years. I lived in California, Boston, New York. But then I moved back to Ohio, and I live in Bexley, Ohio now, probably about 10 miles away from where I grew up.
Wow, very cool. What was your childhood dream?
My childhood dream was to ride horses all over the Wild West, bareback. I identified more with the native lifestyle. That was a dream. I also had a dream of working as a nurse, a field nurse like Clara Barton or Florence Nightingale during times of, hard times, and being there to help people and being resourceful. Those were two of my kind of ongoing dreams that I had as a kid.
And what did your family and friends think of these dreams? Did they support you?
Well, my family was the biggest impact for me. I have 4 sisters. I'm the middle daughter of 5. And my dad is a psychiatrist, and my mom was a at-home mom, but was trained as a nurse. And I was raised in a very strong religion culture, which is called the Seventh-day Adventist culture religion. And it's a Christian religion, but it's really distinctly set apart from the traditional Protestant religions. But the Seventh-day Adventists really advocated and supported medical missionary work, going to all areas of the world and taking the gospel as well as medical help. So I grew up with that mindset. I went to church-related schools until I went to high school. So I was kind of immersed in a very spiritual background. Although my father worked in, outside of the church. He was a administrator of a psychiatric hospital. So we weren't just, closed in. So I think the thing of the nurse, of being a Clara Barton or a Florence Nightingale, came from the inspiration probably from my medical background. But I think there's something else about being outdoors and the fact that they were in encampments and working with people in dire need during a war. That really appealed to me. And the other was just more my heart and soul was running on a horse, bareback, in the wild. And yeah, I got support about going into nursing for sure. And I also got support because my dad had a horse when he was a kid, and he shared it with his brothers and sisters. And my older sister and I got a horse when I was about 10 years old. It's a backyard horse. I didn't show him, but I groomed him, I fed him, I cared for him, I rode him bareback in the woods. So yeah, I got to live that dream, and it's a value of mine. If someone really needs to have an animal or a horse in their life, if you any way you can make that happen, I think it's important because There's nothing like a connection between a girl and her horse, you know. And so that was a dream of mine that did come true as a young kid. I didn't live in the Wild West, and there were woods and there were fences, so it wasn't as open as I still would love. I've been out to dude ranches in the West, so I have been able to go out where there's a lot of land, and I'm still drawn to that. But as far as nursing goes, I actually did go to university and took the pre-nursing and got into nursing school. And the first semester they put me in a geriatrics, and I remember distinctly the smells of this nursing home. I just couldn't take it. But more than that, I was nervous that I would daydream and that I would not pay attention to how many, milliliters I was supposed to give. And I didn't want the responsibility of that person's life in my hands. And that was when I realized I love the idea of nurturing, but I really don't know if I want to do the detail nursing job. So I switched, and I was supported by following what I wanted to do. I continued through college. Do you want me to keep going?
Yes, please do. What did you decide to follow next?
Okay, so when I went to college, I went to a Seventh-day Adventist university, and I decided to do the nursing, and then I decided not to, and then I took time out. I dropped out. I dropped out of school and decided to work because I wanted to establish my independence. I didn't want to be dependent on my parents, and I also wanted the freedom to go in my own direction. So I worked in a hospital, and I worked in restaurants, and then I traveled. I went to Europe, and I also went to Alaska and worked in the fishing industry one summer, cooking for people from all over the country who came just to work on fish processing for salmon. So I ended up finishing college with a degree in English literature because I love stories. And after dropping out, I saw a lot of people that I was working with, and they weren't going where I wanted to go. And I said, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna finish school. And I loved studying literature, and I loved the whole process of the story. And I guess my life, being a kid in the middle of 5 kids, a lot of times when you're from a big family, it takes, I think, longer to figure out what you want, what I wanted. And I was trusting my instinct every step of the way. And I think if people were looking from the outside in, they might think I was wandering around, not knowing what I wanted to do. But every step I took was something I wanted to do. And fortunately, my parents let me, They were happy I finished college. And some of my choices scared them. After college, I moved to Boston. It was a romantic notion because that's where a lot of the, writers from a certain era were from, and I was just drawn to Boston. So I went there, and then I worked all kinds of jobs, and I took a publishing course at Radcliffe College. It was a summer course, and then I went to New York and got a job in publishing. So my journey is more like a trust in my instincts. I didn't have big goals for money. I wanted to support myself, and I wanted to follow my inner instincts, and I did. So I went and worked in publishing for a while, and it was St. Martin's Press, and I was in the art department. And I'm not an artist, but I was working with the graphics. And then, I could barely pay my rent. Uh, you don't make much money in book publishing, especially when you're starting out. And it was during the 80s, and I thought to myself, well, maybe I should go back to graduate school. Maybe I should make some money, because I can't really pay my rent and really get ahead. So I had this idea in my head, oh, I'll go get an MBA. Everyone was getting MBAs. So I went and got a job on the Upper East Side at a small British bank in one of the beautiful brownstones up near the museum, Metropolitan Museum, and I took economics at Columbia. They paid for it, and I did fine. And I thought to myself, oh, I don't love this either. I don't love this. I like finding out, and I was taking the bus to work one morning. I lived on the Upper West Side, and I crossed the park and came down Fifth Avenue and past the museum. And they were doing a film shoot of, was it that show? Oh my, it'll come to me. It's a show about a bunch of high school students that go to a school for arts. I forget the name of it, but I drove by and I saw this production on the steps of the museum, and I said to myself, wow, that's what I want to do. So I got out of the bus and went and talked to the guy with the walkie-talkie, and I said, how do I do what you're doing? I wasn't thinking about being on stage. I was thinking about just helping. And he said, here, take this phone number down and give me a call. We're looking to hire people. So I called him up, and he said, come on down to this warehouse district, and we've got work, and you could be a production assistant. But you first have to interview. So I went down there, I talked with them, and then they gave me the job. And so I then had to give my folks 2-week notice, and then I started working in film production as a production assistant, which is at the grassroots level. And it was fun, and it was exciting, and some big names were in the movie: Michael Keaton, Ray Don Chong, Meatloaf. It was a movie called Skip Tracer, and so I got a job working on that. And everybody kept asking me, are you an actor? And I said, no, I'm not an actor. And but I had so much fun, and I made good contacts, and then I worked in a couple commercials and a couple after-school specials as a production assistant. And then I met Paul Sorvino. I was driving him as an assistant to his home in Jersey, and he told me about an excellent acting school in New York, the Meisner technique. And so he said, you ought to check that out. So I checked it out, and then I auditioned or interviewed, and I got in that school, and it was a 2-year professional program with no acting experience at all. So it was scary, and it was challenging, and I was, floundering, but I got a lot out of it. I got a lot of humanity out of it, a lot of honesty and truth, and fun too. And I guess, one of my skills is that I can pick up and try things on and gain a lot of joy from it and meaning from it. And the world would look at me and say, she's not making any money, she's not getting famous. But I was like, I like this. I'm learning. I'm growing. So, do you want me to keep going?
Yes, if you want to talk about how you got into the environmental
Okay.
aspect too.
All right. Okay, so that was my acting. I did the acting. New York was my late 20s into my 30s, and then I got my training, and then I did some, you know, acting in Jersey, acting in New York, acting in Pennsylvania, and then I ended up going back to Ohio just to kind of rest, and it was in Ohio that I realized, oh, there's theater going on here, and good theater, and good talent here, and so I worked in the world of theater and improv production, and then I taught improv, and then I had kids, and it was when I was around 50, I wanted more than shtick. You know, I love improv. Improv is a huge, wonderful tool to embrace life. And the golden key of improv is yes and. And if you learn yes and, you will go far and you will be open for change. So improv was invaluable in helping me open up. And then, but I wanted more than comedy, and I wanted more than just performance. So I took a job volunteering at a radio show, and the talk show host was doing a show on fracking, which is shale gas extraction. And I read about it, and I said, this is crazy. This couldn't be happening. They couldn't be taking all these millions of gallons of water and rendering it radioactive and toxic and then dumping it in injection wells. That is just stupid. But indeed, that is what they've been doing and are doing in Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, and then, of course, lots of places out west. And in Ohio, we had a governor who was gung-ho on fracking. It was the job creator, energy independence. And the people that I was getting to know were telling me, and the science was saying, this is maybe good short-term profit, but long-term devastation. So I just dove into the issue of fracking. I went to rallies, I went to workshops, I read books. And Columbus, Ohio is in the center of the state, and there's no drill rigs right in our area. But frack waste is so prolific. There's so much water waste that they have to dump it into old injection wells. A lot of times it's just oil and gas wells, abandoned ones. And in Columbus, our watershed has 13 active injection wells now taking frack waste. And Columbus citizens don't have a clue that this is going on. It's like, because it looks like an old mom and pop oil well on a farm field. It's not scary looking. It looks like it's not even working. But those farmers that own that land are getting paid for every gallon of frack waste that goes down there. And the ODNR, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, gets money on every permit that they allow. So, and the industry is getting away with murder of our resources. So, I with another couple people, we created a ballot initiative with CELDEF, which is called Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund, and they are a nonprofit legal organization that helps communities legally try to protect your community and give the citizens the right to say no. Because let me tell you, industry goes to the state lawmakers and they help them write laws. They give the state lawmakers control or preemption over local people. So even if I didn't, if someone was polluting my water from, just a drain, if the industry has control over that toxic water, I can't do anything about it. It's a home rule state, but there's loopholes, all kinds of loopholes that have been written by corporations. and then fed to these lawmakers. And of course, the lawmakers make money from the corporations. So long story short, there's a lot of activists like me in New York, in Pennsylvania, in West Virginia, in North Dakota, in Texas, Oklahoma, even California. Fracking. Everyone says natural gas is clean. Yes, it burns clean. But the extraction process, the amounts of water, fresh water, that is no longer usable. It's out of the water cycle. They have to dump it so deep that it won't leak, but it does leak. It leaks, it seeps, it spills, and it gets into our water. So I'm still in this fight. And I got so involved. I was at protests. I was at the State House all the time. I was testifying. And then I kept running into all the other activists, LGBTQ activists, Black Lives Matters activists, 15 Now activists, women's reproductive rights activists. And I got to know all these folks and love them because they are my people. They are my people. And the gal who runs, one of the publishers for the local progressive newspaper, said, Carolyn, you got to do a radio show. And I said, if you'll help me, I don't know what I'm doing. So she helped me. And this old, studio with half the things hardly working. And, I had to learn how to do it all. And it was scary. I'm older than you guys, a lot of you guys. And so learning all this technology was hard, but so gratifying. The people that I get to meet. It's called Grassroots Ohio, and conversations with everyday people working on important issues here in Columbus and all around Ohio. So that is it's now on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, but I'm still working to protect our water. We never got to pass our ballot initiative. Never. We've done it 4 times. And the city of Columbus fights us tooth and nail. They don't want to have the state sue them. They don't want to take a stand. Even though oil and gas polluting radioactive waste is being dumped in our watershed, our water supply, every day. They're not willing to stick their neck out and say, let's give the citizens a voice. Let them decide what they want in their water. So I'm discouraged. I'm very discouraged about politics. But at the same time, I don't give up on it because that's one of the tactics of change. And so that's what I do now. I also act once in a while when a show comes up that I need to do. And in fact, last March, I was cast as King Lear. And I was so excited for it with the Shakespeare group here in Columbus. And to be a woman cast as King Lear is such an honor. And then COVID hit. So didn't get to do it. But you never know. They may do it next summer. And so I'm continuing to learn King Lear's lines. So that feeds me too. And on top of that, I do a lot of things. I have 2 kids, teenagers, and one that now lives in LA. He's a musician. But I also have a little cottage industry where I make granola, because I am very granola. But my granola features hemp hearts. I put hemp and coconut and nuts and all kinds of organic stuff. So I'm very committed to our water, our air, our soil, and our rights. And so I guess, and social justice for all people, all people, no matter what culture you're from, what your religion is, what your sexual orientation is, equal rights, and and integrity and honor. That's what I fight for, and that's what I get out in my show. I reach out to people that are working on those issues. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now, and I'm not getting rich doing that. I don't get paid. It's a labor of love, but it feeds me. And but like I said, I've been a woman that has followed my instincts, and I don't regret. And I did not follow the money trail. I followed my heart, and I followed my soul and my conscience and my art and yeah. So that's it in a nutshell.
That's all that matters, is like you're following your heart, what makes you happy.
Yeah, really.
So how can you support someone else's dreams?
I can support everyone else's dream because, well, let me put it in a little more context. I can support others' dreams as long as it doesn't harm other people or the planet or other living creatures. So I guess I do have some parameters, but I really feel there is a teacher of creativity. Her name is Julia Cameron, and I read her book, and I can still write in my journal 3 pages a day, and that's one of her, base, asks of people that read the book and for your creativity. But one thing she said, and I really hold it dear, I no longer am religious. I guess I would be called a humanist. But I am not an atheist. I think there is much more out there than I understand. But one of her statements has always stayed with me. She said, your gift from the universe is your inspiration. And your gift back is taking those steps towards that inspiration. So I would always tell my students that, and I feel no one knows what your inspiration is. Only you do. And if you don't know, you need to get some of those layers of expectation and society and judgment and family and religion, kind of peel those away so that you do get comfortable with your inner truth. And then your gift back is taking those steps towards it. And and that energy going out will impact people and will empower them as well. And so, yeah, that's how I can empower people, by saying yes and to you. Yes and to your dream. Yes, tell me more. And what else? That's awesome. Give it a go. That's what I say. Give it a go. And it might be hard. And ask for help. And then you can shift too. If it's just you get to a place where you've got to shift. This is not working and you don't want to do it anymore. Not just because it's hard, but because you've taken it to where it needs to go. And then you're ready to shift. And find the inner inspiration that takes you to the next place.
That's great advice. So, who are your role models?
My role models. One of my first role models was my Aunt Leota. She's 90 now, but back when I was growing up, she was a hippie, maybe a little older than a hippie, maybe, but in our culture, she was a hippie and very creative and thought out of the box and loving to me. And she still lives very creative and out of the box. And she's a great spirit. She's one of my role models. Of course, my mom and my dad have been, huge, integral part of who I am. Role models. I would think one of my favorite gals is Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She also had my birthday, and she also was one of 5 girls. She had, I think she had a brother or 2, but she's was such a brilliant mind, and she had a lot of obstacles in her life because in her era, women couldn't go to really serious school and didn't have property rights and really couldn't work. But her mind was so fertile, and she was so progressive, and she was, our foremother for the women's rights movement. She was a character. So she's one of my role models. And now, I love Bernie. I love Bernie Sanders. I love his heart, and I love his drive to make changes in our country that will help everyone, and not just folks that have money or have privilege or that have, white skin. But,
Trump.
yeah. And Bernie's one of my role models. I love him and I admire him. And I don't know. I just have this inner vision that just keeps me moving, keeps me going forward, keeps me open, exploring. I want to continually challenge myself and do things that maybe even scare me a little bit, but they're things that I really want to do. So,
what inspires you?
What inspires me are Sunrise Movement, young activists who get it. Young. I didn't get it till I was older. I mean, I was post, Vietnam War. I was too young at that point to really be involved, but like Greta Thunberg and not just her, but just the everyday kids that are out there working, not just for environmental justice, but for social justice. These women and that are against all odds have, taken on leadership and are brilliant in leading. And like Stacey Abrams, she's pretty amazing, and AOC, she's pretty amazing. And young people, it's exciting. They inspire me because who knows where you guys are going to take things? Who knows what kind of evolution you will create? And hopefully there will be enough people that want a sustainable planet and a just planet so that all people can thrive and not just the privileged. And so the young people that are fighting now, and I think we're really just beginning to enter a strong period. We've just barely saved ourselves. And I think Joe Biden is bringing on some good people. He's not as progressive as I am, but he is open to bringing on some really strong progressive thinking and able people. So I'm inspired by that. I'm inspired by organic farmers who, work really hard to make the soil and our food as healthy and good as possible. They inspire me. I'm inspired by great writers and great filmmakers and storytellers. People who inspire us to be our best self. Not fake best, our real self. Our real dirty, flawed, half understanding selves, or maybe even a quarter understanding selves. But, but make us feel like it's worth the work, worth the effort to get there. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate musicians, because music will help us, and music helps us survive. Music helps us, especially now, survive the, stress, the unknown, and also helps us play, helps us laugh, and helps us cry. So the arts are huge. Yeah, and they always have been for me. So, yeah.
Definitely agree. What are some tiny steps or actions someone can take in order to turn their dreams into reality?
Some tiny steps that you can take to make your dream a reality is, I journal, and that helps me. Read the book, The Artist's Way, by Julia Cameron. And it may not be your cup of tea, but it was for me. And every day I write 3 pages, and it's not edited, it's just free form. But a lot comes out of my process of what's valuable to me, what chores I've got to do that day, or what I'd love to do, next year. And you just get it out, and it helps free up your flow. That's one thing you can do just to kind of get to where you want to be. If you know where you want to be, then you just give yourself a goal every day. Do one thing, just one thing towards that goal. Like, even if it's just to send a letter or an email to someone, say, do you mind if we have a coffee, or now, because of COVID, Zoom, or even a phone call about this? Or, do you know someone in this area? I'm curious about it and I'd like to know more. And just reach out, and you'll be amazed that people, if you're genuinely interested in something, people will help. And if they don't help, then just brush yourself off and go and ask someone who you feel safe with. I feel if you're a person that's a little timid, then it's scary. It's scary to do something you dream of, that especially if your family doesn't want you to do it, or if it's against your religion or whatever. I would ask you to trust that voice in you, and then ask the safest person that to give you a connection, or an idea of what, a connection. Yeah. And then let me tell you another thing that I use. As an actor, there are moments when you're doing a show that performance is just, it all comes together. Not only your own emotion, but the audience is there for you, your fellow actors are there for you. And once in a while, you'll have this stellar show, or a stellar moment, or as a musician, a stellar gig. Take that memory and cherish it, and put it in your pocket, and keep it in your pocket because there's going to be those times where you suck, or where you fall flat, or where you fall down and don't think you can get up. And so that's when you pull it out of your pocket and say, yeah, it did really good. Or when someone tells you, that was a really good show. That you can't just depend on other people's opinion about you. So you need to have a couple of those things that you put in your pocket. Maybe the stuff that you know is good in your gut. And then also the stuff that once in a while someone you respect and that's not going to be cruel. Because there are a lot of cruel people that want to shut you down. Not on purpose. They're just fearful people. If you want to follow something, let me tell you, you do have to be brave. You do have to be brave. And you do have to trust yourself. People that create things or build buildings or create, documentaries or create a book, it is really their own inner vision. And you have to be brave because lots of people are going to tell you how it's not going to work or how it's going to, oh, that's a stupid idea. Everyone's done that. Or no, there's no way you're going to get the money. It's easy to be naysay. Easy. It's hard to create. So just be brave. Little brave steps.
I love it. If you could go back in time and give your younger self advice or tell them something, what would it be?
If I could go back in time and tell my younger self, how young?
Probably whatever age you want.
Okay.
Just like.
All right. Okay. Younger. I think I probably would tell my younger self to insist that mom and dad would let me take dance lessons and dance as a kid. But that was against my religion back then. So it would have been it really wasn't in my mind that I could do that. But now that I know what I know and how much fun it is to dance, I dance now and I still love it. But to have done that young, I think I would have loved that. And another thing I would have told my younger self to do is play the drums in the school band. Just for the fun of it. Just the fun. Probably not the big ones, but the smaller ones. Not because I'd be an excellent drummer, but just because it would be fun. And not to be afraid to try out for the school play, but it was, at that time in my life, it wasn't the right time for me. So I'm okay. I'm okay on my slow path. I'm okay. I am one of those late bloomers, like my anemones in my front yard. They're the last flowers to bloom in the fall, but they're bright white. They're beautiful. They're the last, fresh flower of the season. And that's sort of been my path. And everyone's got a different path.
And what really matters is that you're following it, regardless of, your age. So, does it matter?
Oh, yeah. No, it's never too late. Never too late. My brother-in-law's mom is a never too late woman, and she's passed on, but she was raised conservative Jewish, and she never got a chance to get bat mitzvahed. And so I think at 80 years old, she got her bat mitzvah. And, and she was one of the most open-minded, funny, kind people I've known. So it's never too late. You just go for it.
Now, if you could time travel to your future self, what would you want to ask them or tell your future self?
If I could time travel to my future self, wow. Oh my goodness. Well, congratulations, Carolyn, for traveling and seeing the beautiful oceans and being brave enough to do those expeditions and learning new things, learning how to sail and how to be in the middle of the ocean with not very much protection. And congratulations for writing that story. And you know, it's a great story, and I'm so glad you wrote it as a book, because it's a great book, but it's also such a great play. And you know what? They made it into a TV series. And it's so awesome because we really got to know those activists, all those hardcore, gnarly activists from Southeast Ohio and Columbus and all those horrible lawmakers. And we got to know them, and we even got to like those horrible lawmakers because we got to know their humanity, even though they were really bad for our state. Their choices were bad. They were still good people. Congratulations for doing that, Carolyn, and for getting those stories out, and for, you know, sharing with the world this transition from a fossil fueled world to a really sustainable world where people aren't perfect, but people are making choices to take care of each other, take care of the planet, sacrifice some of their personal needs and making it good for everybody. I'm so glad you did that, Carolyn. And I'm so glad you stayed, you know, you stayed active and still did the arts and made a difference in Ohio, even though, yeah, it's a good thing you didn't go into politics. Yeah. You would have hated it. I'm glad you stayed with the arts and as an activist, because, man, you can have an impact that way. That's what I would say.
Awesome. How has COVID impacted your dreams at all?
Well, COVID has done some really good things. I'm not saying the virus, but the era of COVID. Because before COVID, I did my radio show at a studio with some old verstunkene equipment that I could barely make work, especially with phone-in calls. So either people had to be at the studio or I would get bad sound, audible sound. So with Zoom, yes, there are clicks. Yes, there are, you know, amplification issues. But not only do I get an audio recording, but I get a video recording. So now my interviews are on YouTube, and now they're on radio, and they're on Spotify and Apple and SoundCloud. So COVID era did that for my activism. It also, I feel, I'm an introvert actor, so I prefer work at home. I like small groups of people, and then I can be very open as an actor. But I've always worked at home or out of home, and so this has not changed for me much. My daughter's been here more, and we've gotten comfortable with that. She's 17. She's happy, actually, in online school. But it was a negative for theater and for performance. And this role of doing King Lear, I may never have that chance again. So that was a huge disappointment when the whole theater season was canceled in Columbus, Ohio, actually all over the country. So that, and then um, the underlying anxiety of not knowing where it is, or, you know, if you're exposing someone who's vulnerable, that's, I wake up in the middle of the night, anxious and thinking about my 92-year-old parents out in California. You know, I risked it and went Thanksgiving, and I kept my I-95 or N95 on the whole time. I mean, I never took it off to eat. I ate away from them because I didn't want to expose them. And so it's huge. COVID is rocking the whole world. And I think people are reevaluating their values. One thing I think is really awesome, though, I see all these dads home with their kids, you know? The kids get to see their dads home or moms home if their moms were the hardcore away from home workers. So it's hard, but it's good. And it's hard if you have a bad home life, and if you have abusive home life, then it would be hell. So yeah, no, it's got the whole gamut. Whole gamut.
Do you think like policymakers are taking all of that into consideration, or do you think they're just all like not really like they don't really care about the humans?
Okay, do I think that policymakers are taking everything into account? You mean as far as COVID, or just in general everything that we've been talking about?
Because of COVID, do you think they're reevaluating some of the things about the environment?
I think some of the lawmakers are changing about due to COVID. I think some lawmakers have been impacted directly by it. Like, you look at Boris Johnson in England versus Donald Trump, and Boris Johnson suffered, and Donald Trump got excellent care, and he didn't suffer too long. But Boris Johnson, he took it more seriously, and Donald Trump stayed in denial. So we see two similar types of lawmakers take very different directions or choices. There's a lot of people that are so isolated, lawmakers that are so isolated from everyday people and everyday people's problems. You know, they're isolated by their aides, the security guards. They're always, you know, being protected. And COVID, it's hard to imagine it hasn't impacted everyone in some way. You know, people, almost everybody has lost someone they know, or lost something they know. I think we just all feel that our power is so finite. Our personal power is finite, and the legislators, the ones that were doing good things before, are working, you know, harder than ever, and the ones that were, you know, corporate, you know, doing the bidding of corporate interests for money or for power or for whatever reason. I hope they've been impacted in a way that's more humanistic, and more concern about the climate crisis, and about the migration and the immigrants and the refugees and the people that are being impacted by the climate crisis, more than those that have money and that can stay protected and have their water and have their food and have their safe houses. So policymakers in Ohio versus policymakers in DC, you know, they came from the same place at one time or the other. We have a bunch of policymakers in Ohio right now that are, it's a supermajority Republican legislature, and they are hardcore. They're like Trump supporters, rubber stampers, and it's frightening what they're doing. All the gun laws that they're allowing, like stand your ground, guns, and you can carry guns into kids' schools, and then taking away all women's reproductive rights, and then also environmental. I mean, they just passed a law that would make it a felony. Senate Bill 33, they just passed it. It's going to the governor, Governor DeWine. I don't know if he'll sign it, but we've been fighting it for 2 years, and basically it will give us a felony for protesting a pipeline, protesting a frack compressor station, in Ohio. And this all goes to, are you familiar with ALEC, American Legislative Exchange? I think it's Council, ALEC. It is a think tank.
No.
It's a think tank, ultra-right, libertarian. The Koch brothers fund it. And they come up with like template laws, and then they market these laws or lobby these laws to conservative lawmakers across the country. And this law, this Senate Bill 33, is very much like one they're doing in Florida, very much one like they're doing in other states that have infrastructure for extraction, gas extraction. So, after Standing Rock, with the big stoppage, the native gathering of people, water protectors, to stop the pipeline, and it stopped business. It stopped the industry. So corporate lobbyists got busy and wrote laws through ALEC, and then got those laws to all the different, oil-producing, gas-producing states, and they're passing it, and they're passing it during COVID. That's another bad thing about COVID. They are not wearing masks. They are not wearing masks at the General Assembly or at the hearings, and so even people that are wearing masks are being, it's contagious, and they are being exposed to all these deniers, or mask deniers, or COVID deniers. So people like me and other people, like, you really don't want to go be right next to them and testify and protest, because first of all, it's just not safe. And then they refuse to do testimony. And that should not be legal, because they have the resources, they have the technology. They could do all of our testifying on, video or Zoom or chat or wherever. So right now, and this is called lame duck session, all these bills that are controversial, they're just throwing in these big Christmas tree bills, are called, and gun right bills, anti-protest bills, all kinds of bills that are bad for the people, but good for corporations, or good for the really right-wing mindset. So right now, it's a horrible time in Ohio. It's like Donald Trump. There's 50 Donald Trumps in our state house. So, we're just, progressive people are just like, okay, breathe one step at a time, one issue at a time. Let's help each other, support each other. It has to get better. And people that are driven to run for public office, do it. We'll support you. We'll support you. We'll be the ones out there pushing the envelope, pushing it hard. And then you can do what you can do, which is people that have that ability to create policy, that ability, that interest to negotiate and come up with the best plan. We need you. We need you. We need people like me. We need people at the State House. And then we need people behind the scenes. I guess what it is you've got to follow your skills and your heart. If you're an activist, certain things you're drawn toward. Some people want to camp out in trees and block a pipeline. Or maybe they don't want to, but they know that's pretty much all they can do to stop it. I mean, the Native American water protectors up in Minnesota right now are planting themselves in front of these big bulldozers so that this pipeline's not built. So it takes courage, but it also takes your skills. So don't be discouraged saying, well, I can't do that. I'm not brave, or I'm not an actor, or I'm not. Well, maybe you're really good at organization, or you're really good at being friendly. I'm not that good at being friendly. I mean, some people are really good. They draw people in, and we need that kind of people. So trust yourself. Know that your skill is what is needed. It is.
That's great advice. I didn't know that about the anti-protest. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, no.
Like,
a felony. A felony. Around frack infrastructure. But they've got other ones too for Black Lives Matters. They're creating another law that would make it a felony for, protesting or causing, business traffic stopping, It's like First Amendment right, peaceful protest. That's our First Amendment right. So, yeah, no. They're busy.
That's unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So what's next for you?
What's next for me? Well, every week when I am trying to come up with my next story or my next, theme and guests, I wonder, oh God, do you think I'm going to be doing this forever? It's been almost 2 years I've been doing it. And during COVID, like the first part of COVID last year, I did some reruns. But other than that, it's pretty much every week a new show. I want to continue this for a while. I feel like it's a service. It is a connector service for other activists to get to know each other and connect and help each other. And also to get encouragement from each other. And, I'm in awe of these people, of these good people. But next for me, there's a group of women, it's called Expedition, EXXPEDITION. It's a young gal, probably your age. She's a sailor, and she has created this expedition that is studying the oceans for plastic pollution. And they started a year ago, or longer than a year ago, but they had to stop because of COVID. And now their boat is in, I think, Tahiti, and they still have another whole year to go. And women can sign up for legs of the journey to be part of this expedition. So that's scary to me, but incredibly drawing. And as a person that's a fractivist, and in Ohio, there's a huge petrochemical hub that is in the works that is being built primarily to create single-use plastic. Okay? Huge. And we're fighting that. So plastic is part of what motivates me to move to the next place beyond plastic. So to do this expedition would not only be part of that, but it also would be an adventure. It would be a scary adventure, but one that I would grow from. And so I need to apply for that, and that would be next for me. So, and then after that, maybe that book or that TV series. I don't know. I love TV series because you really get to know people. Like, oh, that's another thing about COVID. Binging. I never binged before. So I binged on Schitt's Creek. I binged on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And just finished Doc Martin. And I miss Doc Martin and Louisa. And what I love about these series is you get to know them and love them. And so I'd love to be part of creating an activist series. Folks working on issues, but showing their fun sides as well as their passionate anger, because we all activists, we're all angry. We're really angry, but we have to laugh, or else, you can't be angry forever, So I guess maybe that might come after Expedition, and who knows, Grassroots. If I move on from Grassroots, I'm definitely gonna pass the baton to maybe a couple folks who might want to do it, or just encourage someone else to do their own show. If they don't want to do Grassroots Ohio, that's fine. Just do your own. Do it your dream. Do the one you want to do. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much for doing this, and it was really a pleasure meeting you. And I'm excited to see what you do.
Great meeting you too. Have a great weekend.
All right.
And I'll let you know about the next part, because I did have this 15-year-old girl who's in England, and I feel like it would be great to have a discussion with both of you.
Oh yeah, I would love that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you again. Bye.
Do you want me to send this video to you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So do I need to upload it to YouTube first and then send it to you? How do I share such a big video?
I think you can upload it to either WeTransfer or Google Drive.
Okay, I'll figure it out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is it okay if it's on YouTube?
Yes, I should be able to download it from YouTube.
Okay, because I think I can figure that one out.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Okay, we'll be in touch.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.